welcome to another edition of When Ebenezer Talks. I am Palmer Bunting, the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I am on location tonight at the Shiloh Baptist Church Atlantic, and I am delighted, Pastor Harvey Davis, Dr. Harvey Davis.
Thank you, sir.
To sit down and talk to you. Dr. Davis is the pastor here at Shiloh Baptist Church, Atlantic, Virginia. Dr. Davis, how long have you been here at Shiloh?
Pastor Bunting, I've been here 25 years, November the 1st.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, started 1998.
Oh my
Yes,
gracious,
sir.
that's a long time.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm sure you have seen a lot of different things. Can you tell us how has the church changed since you first started 25 years ago?
Well, it's changed in structure for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we have built a new church. 2009, we marched in this church, this new building. And I remember the old church, wooden church.
I remember it, I used to preach here.
That's right, that's
Yeah, I
right, that's
remember
right. So we have come a long way with that, the saints of God, and small body, but you know, we put our tithes and our offerings, and God raised the money, and here we are. So
What pushed you? How did God, if you will, encourage or push you to go to your congregation and say, "Church, the Lord is saying to me, it's time for us to build a new church"? How did that vision come to be?
Well, I was coming in, and I was seeing that the church was being run down, and had a little teeny steady. And I said, well, you know, we need to enlarge this. And first I started thinking about doing an add-on. Then the Lord spoke to me and said, look, I will make the provision, and go ahead and tell the folk you want to build a new church. And my response was, we can't do that. We're a small congregation. We don't have monies coming in. I told them, look, it's going to be the Lord that's going to do it. And here we are. And God has provided.
And from what I remember of your story, because I used to come here every year and preach, and I'm telling you something, you want a house to come preach in? Shiloh Baptist Church Atlantic is a house to preach in. Let me tell you, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I would not lie to you. I know what it means to preach in a major situation. Dr. Harvey Davis has a house for you to preach in. Dr. Davis, tell me now, you mentioned a little bit, did you face a lot of opposition as some pastors face? Because you really tore down part of your old sanctuary and you moved part of it and connected it to your church. Did you face a lot of opposition in the process of getting to build?
No, I would say it was a smooth transition after the saints saying that, you know, gave them the vision, and we drew up a floor plan and et cetera, and told them this is what we want to do, and they came on board. And as far as the money is concerned, I just believe in tithing. So I showed them that if we tithe, it can come to fruition. So I didn't know, to answer your question, no, I didn't get a whole lot of flack of making this move in the beginning, but they caught on.
How long did it take you to build it from start to finish?
We started, I guess we marched in 2009, and probably like 3 years before that, so 2006 was when we started.
Wow. That's awesome.
And we raised the money, raised the funds, so yeah.
And so I hear you say raise the money, raise the funds. So you're telling me that you didn't go to the bank and borrow?
Well, we really had the funds. We decided at the last minute to break.
Okay.
You know, we was gonna get one of them aluminum jobs,
Okay.
and we had the money in the bank to do that. But
Okay.
we decided to go ahead and break it up, so we did have to go in.
Do that.
at
But
the
for the
last
most
moment.
part,
Yes, sir.
you had already raised the
Yes,
money
sir.
with the help of the Lord.
Yes, sir.
That,
Yes, sir.
my brothers and sisters, that right there speaks volumes. If you know the Eastern Shore and the work ethic and how hard people have had to work to help maintain the local church and the jobs and how things have been on the Eastern Shore. That is a phenomenal blessing from the Lord, that you were able to lead a congregation and be able to build such an edifice in this time and in this season to do what you've done. That speaks volumes. So tell us about your journey. You come from under the great late Bishop Isaac Jenkins, one of his sons in ministry. How was that? How did you evolve into being called to preach?
I started out at First Baptist and sat under DeHaven Vaughn.
Okay.
Married my wife. She lived in Pocomoke, so that caused me to go to Pocomoke. And I joined Macedonia Baptist Church, and I sat under Bishop Jenkins far off and just listened at that man preach. He preached love. And there were times I went into the services that Sunday, and it seemed like he knew what was going on in my household. And but to long story short, I saw him. He was the one that I guess caused me to really go and preach, because he was authentic. And I went to him and I told him one time, I said, Pastor Jenkins, I think I'm called to preach. He said, well, why don't you go ahead and set as a deacon? We'll start you off as a deacon, and we'll see. So I sat under Pastor Jenkins for about 10 years before I went to him. And then I became a deacon and then start preaching. He licensed me and I started preaching.
So wait a minute. So you're telling us tonight that you went to Bishop Jenkins and said that you felt a calling on your life.
Yeah.
And it would be 10 years.
Yes, sir.
Before he gave you the opportunity to stand and to preach.
Yes. I sat under him, and then I guess 10 years before I went to tell him, and then I did. He told me sit down and become a deacon first, and then I got licensed and I went out and started preaching.
And how long was it after you preached your initial sermon, or what we say in the country is a trial sermon? How long was it before you were called to the Shiloh Church?
I would say about 13 years.
So you preached up and down Maryland and Virginia.
Yes, sir.
For many different pastors.
Yes, sir.
Before God called you to the office of pastor.
Well, I think I'm gonna have to correct something here, because first I was called down to Gospel Temple.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I got ordained and everything to go down there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But things got interrupted, and so that didn't work out.
Okay.
But God had Shiloh for me.
Had Shiloh for you.
Yeah, Shiloh for me.
A lot of us as pastors have that testimony that we had our eyes set on someplace else.
Yes, sir.
And God didn't allow that to take place, and allowed us to go and land where we are. And so that right there lets everybody know that God has to call you.
Yes.
God has to appoint you.
Yes.
And God has to send you where he wants you to be. Yes. Dr. Davis, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. And so I would take it that Bishop Jenkins had a great impact.
He did. Yes, sir.
On
yes,
your
sir.
life and on your ministry.
Yes, sir. I really loved Bishop Jenkins. He lived the life right in front of me, and I was there. I was faithful everywhere he went during that time. I was singing on the men's choir course, and everywhere he went, I was there. So I think he also seen my faithfulness as well.
You've been preaching now, pastoring 25 years, preaching several years beyond that. Who are some of the preachers that you enjoy listening to?
Well, it don't take much from me. I can listen to any preacher, because You know, I eat the meat, throw away the bones. But I love to hear you. When
Bless
you
your
preach,
heart.
remember, you know,
Bless
you
your
came
heart.
to our church and preached.
On many occasions.
And you,
On many
you were talking
occasions.
about this is a good place to preach in. But, you know, I just don't believe that everybody ain't going to clap their hands and amen everybody.
That's true.
So you got to be able to bring it.
That's true.
And you were one to be able to, that brought it. There's you, Bishop Jenkins, and, you know, there's back then Bruce, and then, you know, there's the Scott. So there's so many preachers.
Oh, yeah. Reverend Dr. E.L. Bruce was a major preacher.
Yes.
On the Eastern Shore. My father and him are very good friends. I remember him coming to my parents' home. Dr. Davis, you have a major testimony, not only with being able to build this church and to lead this church 25 years. What else have you done professionally? I've always heard you talking about sports and refereeing. Yeah. I want to touch on a little bit of that. What else? What are some of you did a little refereeing and into athletics.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, coming up on the shore, that's all. I used to love sports. I mean, I played everything, and I would rather play sports and go in and eat. My mother would have to call me, Harvey, come on in. And so played and then matriculated to school because I got a scholarship. And from there, I went and got a elementary ed. I was wanted to be a teacher because that was a person that in my elementary school that I wanted to emulate. So I went to Norfolk State to be a teacher, came back, got my degree, and I worked with Maple Shades residential homes, juveniles.
Okay.
So that was my first professional job. And then I worked over NASA for 10 years. Okay. As a material analyst. Okay. Then I was in one of the clubs with a gentleman, and he was looking for assistant city manager for Pocomoke City or housing zoning coordinator. So he said, I think you have the aptitude. So I applied for that job and worked there for 28 years. Wow. Yeah.
And you retired from there.
And I retired from there.
Okay. Okay.
And in the same time, I was in the military, and so I would have to take off weekends, and I was pastoring during that time as well. Later on, and so I was in the military for 20 years, a reservist and a National Guardsman. So I would have to go up to Fort Meade to drill and come back. And on top of that, Pastor Bunting, I became I worked with Salvation Army as the director of a youth club. They had a satellite program there. For 15 years, I would leave my job, 4 o'clock, go over to the Salvation Army until 8. Take the kids up to Salisbury, all around to play football. On weekends, we go to tournaments, basketball, and et cetera. And when I would think about it, I would say, Reverend Davis, if I think about it, that's when the pressure came. Okay. But long as I was in it and doing it, I was fine. So, and now, you know, I've retired for those jobs, so I've been pastoring, and now I'm still going a little bit. I'm working as a hospice chaplain. Yeah.
That really falls into your area with pastoring.
Yes.
Because the hospice community needs somebody with your heart and your giftedness. That's a very difficult time. And so they need someone. And so that's awesome that you're able to make time to do that. You have matriculated through school, earned doctorate degree. Tell us a little bit about that journey. Because I believe your journey is going to be different from mine because you were flying out way out to the Midwest.
Yeah, 1 year.
Okay.
You know, just like you, 2013 went to get a Master's in Divinity, Samuel DeWitt over in Richmond. Went over there every Friday for 3 years.
Yeah, I know. I remember that journey.
Graduated to 2016. So I wanted to take a break, and I have a colleague, a brother that said, "Look, man, let us do this doctorate." So I said, "Man, look, I don't know about that." So we enrolled, and we were accepted, and so I enrolled in the Acts program at Chicago Theological Seminary.
Okay.
And that was 2019. And I was fortunate that through all the reflection papers and the writings and all the preachings and all that, I was able to graduate 2022.
That's awesome.
With my doctorate.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you seen your preaching change since you have earned that doctorate degree?
I have. It seemed like, it's easier for me to go in and do the research and pick out the points and, that I want to, preach during the sermon. But here I think it's much easier. They make it easy, like you say, make it easy for you. Yeah. It's been, it has been a help and an asset to my preaching.
What would you say has been the greatest challenge in ministry for you as a pastor?
Well, of course, I got sick.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
Well, the challenge I would say is just knowing the people, being able to know your people and deal with people, because people are fickle.
They are.
One way today and the next day, so you got to know how to. Yeah. So that's a challenge, I think, of really getting in touch and knowing the people, and I think that's one.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to take the month of October with Ebenezer Talks broadcast, just to shed light on what it takes to lead God's people as pastors and as ministers of the gospel, and the ins and outs. And so that's one of the reasons why we're taking the whole month of October, very well may go over into November, talking to pastors about their journeys and how they have evolved and what they've had to go through to get to this point. You spoke briefly momentarily ago about your sickness. I remember very vividly you going through sickness, going through cancer, and how we prayed for you.
Yes, and I felt them. Hallelujah.
Tell us what you can about that journey and how God has obviously brought you out.
I thank God for insurances, because when I was working at the city, I did every year go and get a checkup, and so this particular year, the doctor said, you got an enlarged prostate, and so he said, I think that something is going on here, wrong here, so you need to see a specialist. And I did, and I remember that day, and my wife didn't go with me. Normally she would go with me. She would have gone with me. I went by myself, and so he did a biopsy. The results came back, and I went up there to find out, and he said, you have cancer. I seen times I would fall to pieces, but the Lord spoke to me not unto death. I was just as calm. So I came home and told my wife, and so both of us went, and we had a consultation with the doctor, and what we're going to do, and et cetera. So I was fortunate to get this operation where they don't, cut you robotically, and so that worked out. But then 2014, residue came back, so I had to do 28 bouts of radiation.
Now, let me pause. Let me stop you. You said 2013, 2014. You were in school during this time.
Yeah, well, yes.
You was working on your master's.
Yes.
At Virginia Union.
Yes, sir.
So how did you navigate that?
So I had to go up to Salisbury every day. Was it? Well, 28. So I think it kind of coincided there a little bit. But I would have to go there. But Friday is when I had to
go to school.
There. Yeah, go to school. So so I pushed myself.
And that's what I was getting to. You still found the energy. You still found the drive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You still was able to get on the road and drive.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just want to put this in there. My mother told me, this is my mother, I believe, she told me, she said, Harvey, you're going to be a preacher. I don't know whether it was because she didn't get there, but she said, you are. And that was furthest of my mind, probably 17, 18 years old. No, I want to have fun. And so, I went to college, Muslim and all that. And I came back home and told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to become a Muslim. Pop! She slapped me! Man, she slapped me, man, pretty much slapped some sense in me.
Wow.
And I never did.
And see, we don't have mothers like that anymore.
No, and
mothers now would just accept it and say, okay, baby, you go ahead. But we thank God for them kind of mothers like that. Yeah, go right ahead.
And so Pastor, that from that point on, I think it was my mother really, she prophesied that, and I loved my mother. But it wasn't until my mother, I remember I was working over NASA, and they called me and said, my mother don't want to go to the hospital. You can only one that can get her to go. So I did. But she passed that Sunday. And that was me really getting on the right road. And from that point on, I ain't been doing nothing but on the road for Jesus. I guess it took her death for me to really, and that was 1983. She passed.
And sometimes it takes a shakeable moment to shake us and to put us in the direction God wants us to go. And so you go through your treatments 2014.
Yes.
And you make it through those treatments and you find some scarring, you said.
Yes, sir.
And so how did you?
Well, from then, came back non-detectable and been going every 6 months, every year. Then it went to a year and been doing pretty good. Just went the 27th and checked again. So
everything was all right.
So far, everything's all right. So I just thank God so much, and I think that have an impact on me, my preaching. Having the opportunity. Because it could have been the other way.
That is a testimony.
Yes, sir.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because the community so many times sees the pastor dressed, and we're going to talk about that too, robed up, looking the role as if he or she doesn't go through anything. And you can see tonight that pastors deal with the same kind of issues that everybody else deals with. No different. And so we give God praise for how God has brought you through. Obviously, your wife and your children have played a major role.
Yes, sir.
In not only your ministry, your success in your ministry, but being able to overcome the sicknesses. Your wife has been right there with you.
Right there. My wife has, we've been married for 47 years, and I went with her 5 years before that, so 52. And my mother loved her. So that was my mother's choice.
Okay. So you had no choice.
And I think she knew that, but she had a type of personality, and she's very wise, like her, and so she has been an asset. And Pastor Bunting, you know me, I don't really reach out to a lot of people.
That's very true.
And I'm very personable, but I have my wife. I guess that's the reason why I have my wife to be there to talk to, and I tell her anything. So
she's your best friend.
Best friend, yeah, best friend.
Yeah. And I couldn't do this interview tonight because I've seen Dr. Davis interact with First Lady Davis, and I could not come and have this conversation and not make mention of his wife and the positive impact that she's had not only on his ministry, but on your life and the mother of your children and things of that nature. God has blessed you tremendously. Yes. And so I cannot end this conversation without saying that Dr. Harvey Davis is, and I've always said this to him, and I may even said it here when I'm preaching, he is undoubtedly the best dressed Baptist pastor on the Eastern Shore, from Cape Charles to Pocomoke. I don't care what other pastor gets mad. I don't care
come on,
what any other pastor says. Harvey Davis is look at it. Look at it. Is always on point.
Sessions is listening at you.
I Felton is listening. Jesse Thomas is listening.
That's right.
Palmer Bunting is listening. All of them are listening, and I'm saying it out loud tonight. Harvey Davis is the man when it comes to being dressed for the role. Dr. Davis, and I know some of the story because we have a mutual friend who's now deceased, Fulton White.
Yes, sir.
Used to tell me about the relationship you all had when it came to clothes. Yeah. You've always been a dresser.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because it just didn't start here. When I graduated, I was most athletic / best dressed. And
rightfully so.
And I used to go to Baltimore and get my clothes.
Okay.
And, so clothing have always been a part of me. I told my daughter, I said, here I am in my 60s and still trying to dress. What's wrong with me? Usually, you approach your 60s, man, you want to kick that stuff to the side. But here I am, now I'm 70, still loving clothes, man.
And I want to be just like you when I get 70. I want to be just like you. Felton Sessoms, if you're watching, I love you. But I think you've got some major positive competition right here. And not only do you love clothes, but you love cars.
Wow.
Dr. Davis, and he may not want me to share this, but I'm going to do it because we're coming to the end of the conversation. He is a car enthusiast. Yeah. New cars, antique cars. How long have you've always had this love, obviously?
Well, that's my dad.
Okay.
My dad had a love for cars. He wasn't able to get cars like I did, but I remember his cars that he had. And so I would think that was an attribute that coming from him. I have had cars and I've got rid, but most of my cars, I hold on to them. My 1964, my 1964 Mercury Comet was my mother's car that she bought off of Swap Shop back when she was living for $500. Wow. I still got it. She's running good. Painted it from burgundy to black. And then, I have a old 2000 Jaguar, a 1997 Jaguar, and then I have about four Cadillac. But I love cars. Yeah. I love cars, and so
now when you get up and you say, Sister Davis, I got an itch. Does she say, "Oh, Harvey, come on now. What does she?"
Yeah.
She kind of keeps you.
Yeah. Both my
disciplined.
whole family was against my love for cars. I mean, really, justly so. So, yeah, but that's my thing.
That's your thing.
You know, some people love to boat, to go fishing, and but vehicles. Each one of those cars have a different personality. And man, you know, I like to get in my 454 pickup and hear that muscle. You know, when I did have a 2010, I had a 2009 350Z, traded that in and got a 2010 370Z. But I loved that power then. Yeah. And now, I got the coupe.
You had a need for speed.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever drive your mother's car to church on Sundays?
No, I don't. But I have driven it to different shows and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, but she's still running good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I want to close this conversation by asking you, after hearing your testimony and how God has blessed you through ministry, through professional life, through education, through family life, through hobbies, there's a young man that may be watching this interview saying to himself tonight, I want to be like Harvey Davis. I want to be able to have a testimony at 70 years old like Harvey Davis. What would you say to them?
I would tell that young man or young lady to give God a chance. Give God some time out of your life. And when you do that, be faithful. Be faithful to God. Not to people, but be faithful to God. And then watch God. Watch God show you some miracles in your life, and then let you know personally that he's real. And so I would tell them to give God some time. Give God, just try him, and watch and see God work for them.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the man himself, Dr. Harvey Davis. I forgot to mention he is our second vice moderator of the Eastern Shore Virginia Maryland Baptist Association, and he's doing a phenomenal job working with Reverend Brenda Peterson and Moderator Washington. Dr. Davis, thank you for opening up your doors to us. Thank you for so many years of allowing me to come and practice preaching. When I couldn't say anything, you gave me an opportunity to come here. And so this is not even part of the script, but I just want to thank you. Many times you opened your door to me and allowed me to come preach and just be a part of what you had going on. And I've never forgotten it. And I thank you publicly tonight for allowing me to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a wonderful, wonderful time of sharing as we move through our Clergy Appreciation Month. Dr. Harvey Davis has done a phenomenal job here, and we pray that God will continue to bless you, sir, continue to bless your ministry, your family, and bless your car fetish as well.
Pastor Bunting, can I thank you
yes,
as well?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Because I think you were instrumental in giving me the opportunity to become second vice, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for what you're doing. You, in a sense, this platform is no others are doing it, but it's putting the show on the map, so to speak. And you are, a young man that's on fire, doing things with your church and bringing preachers in, and so you're doing a phenomenal job. So I want to encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And I believe that the Lord's hand is upon you.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this episode of When Ebenezer Talks. We pray that God will continue to bless you Do something special for your pastor this month. Let him or her know how much you appreciate and love them, and how thankful you are for what they bring to your life. I'm Palmer Bunting, pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church. God bless you, and may heaven smile upon you. It's our prayer. Good night.